What is going on, all you Pokemon collecting maniacs out there? This is Ryan, the PikiPikaPapa, and today we're going to be doing what we do every month, and we're going to be looking at Scarlet and Violet and all of the awesome sets that are in it and how their top 20 singles cards have moved month over month. Now, you know, if you watch this channel at all, we do super in-depth dives into Sword and Shield, into Sun and Moon, into XY, and we can do that because all of those eras are sunset. But here in Scarlet and Violet, we can't do that yet, right? There's still so much of the product out there. This new product is launching. These cards and sets are in the middle of the Pokemon pop and flop, so we can't get quite as detailed, but I'm telling you this, every month when we look at how these top 20 cards move month over month, we walk away with some awesome learnings, and this month is no exception. There's some really cool things that are happening in the Scarlet and Violet space. Now, Scarlet and Violet has performed unlike most other sets. You know, it's been fascinating because traditionally in the past, especially with Sword and Shield, we would see these cards that would come out, they'd start high, they'd go through the Pokemon pop and flop, they'd spend the first 6, 8, sometimes even 10 months dropping in price as more sealed was opened and, you know, the singles cards were meeting the demand. But Scarlet and Violet has been like, I don't care what you've done in the past. We're going to have a ton of cards that kind of buck that trend. However, now that we're starting to get some age behind some of them, we're seeing some of those trends start to normalize a bit, and that's what gets me really exciting. I think there's some awesome cards from the Scarlet and Violet era that are reaching some really approachable price points, right? I never know where the bottom is. I never know where the top is. I'll never tell you when to buy or when not to buy. All I can say is this: I am always looking for great cards at fair prices, and I think we're starting to get to that point with a lot of things here in Scarlet and Violet. So with that being said, before I get into the meat and potatoes of it, we do tons of work here on the channel from a data perspective, and if you enjoy that and haven't hit the subscribe button, we would appreciate it if you do. It goes a long way in helping us out. If you like what you see, give us a thumbs up, and if you have questions or comments, drop them down below. So with that out of the way, let's get into the first two sets. Now, Scarlet and Violet base and Paldea evolved, and let's all be honest, Scarlet and Violet base is doing what? Well, base sets traditionally do, and that's not a whole heck of a lot. Scarlet and Violet base started off with the Miriam card. It was the first set of Scarlet and Violet, obviously, and that card was all the way up at $120, $130. We're going to look at the price graph in just a minute, but ever since then, it has been on a downward spiral. It is all the way down to sub $25, coming in $23.38. Matter of fact, the Gardevoir card is now the #1 card from Scarlet and Violet. However, I will say this, as bad as it is doing, look at all of the cards that are over $10, and I want you to remember that when we start looking at some of these other sets. So Scarlet and Violet, not a lot of oomph at the top, but it does have a decent number of cards over $10. Now, a set that has done very well and is full of pizzazz is Paldea Evolved. And my gosh, look at the Magikarp there. Yes, there's a lot of red in Paldea Evolved. Yes, it's down 5% as a whole month over month, but that Magikarp card at the very top is up 2%. And I remember when that card first started to get hot, and so many people were like, well, it doesn't make any sense, and, you know, there's no reason for this card to be that expensive. But I'll be honest with you, I bought one at 50, I bought one at 70. Like, I thought the artwork was awesome. When I started to understand that the gem rate was going to be crazy low, I got excited, and then it's rewarded us. The market has held. It's been 15 months since Paldea Evolved was launched, and that Magikarp is still over $100. Matter of fact, it's been hovering right around 115 bucks. So I think that is a really good sign of things to come in the future for the Magikarp. I think the card, even though it's already over $100, I think it has a very bright long run ahead of it, you know, in 3, 5, 10 years, something like that. So I think the card's got a lot of upside. However, not performing as well are the other top cards in Paldea Evolved. You'll see that when it gets beyond that, the Iono, the Raichu, the Tyranitar, they have had a rough month. Matter of fact, let's go ahead and look at them right now. So when you look at the Raichu card and the Tyranitar, really in April, May, really around the May area, both of them spiked up in price. And then what happened was two different results. The Raichu actually held on to a lot of those gains, okay? You'll see that it has really held that $40 mark ever since it had the spike, but the Tyranitar came back down. Now, both of these cards have abysmally low gem rates, okay? I'm talking, I think the Tyranitar is 19% gem rate and the Raichu is 18. That is as low as you will find anywhere, I promise you. So it's very interesting to think about where these cards might be in the future, because the overall PSA 10 population will be low. I promise you, hard stop. The PSA 10 population for each of these cards is going to be crazy low. I think each is only in the 300 total population right now. And again, the set is 15 months old. So what's interesting to me is the Tyranitar. That's where I think my biggest attention is right now. Now, we already saw a big Tyranitar card from Battle Styles in Sword and Shield, the Sleepy T-Tar. Now, alt arts kind of have their own thing, like it's a whole different rare air, but it does show that there can be a awesome Tyranitar card, ultra modern, that goes for $130, $140, right? And guess what? the gem rate on that one is at 65%. There are going to be way more PSA 10s of the Sleepy T-Tar than there are of this Tyranitar from Paldea Evolved, and so that's why I get so excited about it. Again, this is the one that's continued to come back down. It's getting near the $25 mark. I'm going to keep an eye on it, see if it holds at 25 or if it breaks below that support line, but who knows? Just two really awesome cards that I think are worth talking about. And as I said, the Miriam, love the artwork on this card. I really do. I think it was a great way to start the Scarlet and Violet era, but my gosh, down to sub $25. Not a lot there. We'll have to see what happens in the long run, but the next sets we'll talk about, Obsidian Flames and Pokemon 151. Now, if you remember on the Scarlet and Violet base set, I said, remember how many cards are over $10, even though Scarlet and Violet base isn't doing a whole lot? Well, poor Obsidian Flames has even fewer cards over the $10 mark. Only 4 of them are over $10. I'm going to talk about the Charizard in just a minute because I do have a lot of good feels about that card, and I'll explain why. But then when you look at the rest of the set, I don't think the market is just going to wake up someday and be like, oh, you know what, Obsidian Flames really is a great set and everybody's going to pile in. I think the set, just beyond that Charizard, has its future pretty well written in that it's not going to be a whole lot of oomph behind it. On the other side of the coin, Pokemon 151 is full of oomph. Like, it is the hottest thing in recent memory, and it is certainly a set for the ages, right? I mean, look at all of these sets that we look at them. Almost all of them are going to be down as an aggregate of the top 20 value month over month. And here Pokemon 151 is, even though the Charizard's down 3% month over month, all of the other cards are doing so incredibly well. The aggregate of top 20 is up 1% month over month. And there are so many things that I love about Pokemon 151. One of them is the way the Pokemon Center exclusive Elite Trainer box has performed, and I actually have that graph to show you right here. So I have been a huge fan of Pokemon Center exclusive Elite Trainer boxes in the Scarlet and Violet era, ever since it came out with the stamped promos, and they've rewarded most of us who were in them early on. Now, I will say Twilight Masquerade has been in stock for a while, and I know the promo card's not great, and I know the artwork on the box isn't great, but it's starting to make me think that maybe moving into the future, it won't be as great of an investment because the Pokemon Company might be printing a whole lot more, but that's a different discussion for another day. But I will say this Pokemon Center exclusive Elite Trainer box for Pokemon 151 is almost at $150. Which is just absolutely insane. Now, the other thing I wanted to talk about, and that I love so much about that 151 set, is this Pikachu card is great. It is going to do really well. I guarantee it, right? Pikachu cards in general are really, really popular, and then this one is a mashup, and Pikachu mashup cards do really well. You got Gengar on there, you got Growlithe on there, like you got all kinds of other awesome Pokemon on there. Plus, it comes from 151, a set from the ages. Plus, it has a crazy low gem rate at 23%, and you can still get this card for about $20. And that is what I love about 151. So many awesome cards, big name Pokemon, awesome artwork, so many in the $20 range. Like, you just can't beat it. I mean, you really can't. Whether you're a collector or investor, you just have to love something like this. Now, the Charizard from Obsidian Flames, I told you I had some thoughts on this. Now, that is a one-year price graph below it, and you'll see over the last year, it has been almost consistently coming down, except the last couple months, it seems to have found support around the $40 range, and dare I say, over the last couple weeks, it's actually been working its way back up. It's up to $44, so I can pretty confidently say that at least right now, the market views this card as a $40, low $40 card, and the gem rate is low compared to most cards that you see. Again, this one, the gem rate here, I think is in the 20-30% range, so relatively low. It's got Charizard. I do think the artwork is awesome, so this is a great card, which I think is right around a fair price value of $44. I have 3 of them. I sent 2 of them off. I got one PSA 10, one PSA 9. I got one raw that's not worth sending through, so I'm not even going to think about that, but I feel really good about this collection that I have of these cards. And when you have cards like this that have a relatively low gem rate, they do have the opportunity to potentially give us some big gains in the long run, so it'll just be something worth keeping an eye on. But I feel really good at the $40 price point for this Charizard from Obsidian Flames. Next 2 sets, Paradox Rift and Paldean Fates. And I can say a lot about Paldean Fates, and I will in a second, but poor Paradox Rift. I mean, it has just been a total bloodbath for Paradox Rift. Last month when we did this video, the top 20 singles cards were down 7% month over month. This month, they are down 11% month over month. And you look at the Roaring Moon at the very top, it's been kind of hovering in the $50, $55 range, so it'll go up, it'll go down. It really has a lot of support in the $50 range, but this month it just happens to be a lot closer to the $50, so it shows that it's down. And I'm going to talk about the Groudon card here in just a second, because I have a lot of interesting thoughts on that one, and I actually think that might end up being the chase card far into the future. But before we get into that card, I want to talk about Paldean Fates. How cool is it that the Charizard from Paldean Fates is maintaining over $100 value? I think that's really cool. To me, that's like a psychological barrier. Having a card over $100 in a set, it just, I don't know, it just means something special to me. I like it. I think people are going to be more into the set. I think that gives it some additional layer of chase. But what's really exciting about Paldean Fates is we might end up with two. That Bubble Mew has been on fire. It is quickly becoming an iconic card from the whole Scarlet and Violet era. You'll see right here it's up 10% over last month in the mid $90 range. Like, that card is doing really well. You add in, you got baby shinies in there, right? You got some trainers. I know the Iono's nothing like the Iono, you know, from Paldea or Paldea Evolved, right, from an artwork perspective, but some really cool things. So let's talk about it in more detail. So the Groudon card right here that I was talking about, again, you see the same thing in March, April, May. It started to work its way up. Then it came down, but it held. It has been holding that sub $50 card price range for quite a while. And again, this is a Gen 3 Pokemon, you know, and you got Roaring Moon, which is an ultra modern Pokemon. And I just think in the long run, the artwork on this is fire. You can't argue with that. The artwork on this is absolutely amazing. So if this does end up being the chase card from Paradox Rift, what does the end upside look like? I don't know. Obviously, not a lot of people are into this set or the singles cards, or else we wouldn't see such aggressive price decline over the last couple months. But it is a card I'm going to keep an eye on because, again, if you can identify the chase card from a set before it becomes a chase card from a set, that's a really darn good time to get in on it. And of course, the Bubble Mew, like I talked about, if Paldean Fates can have two cards over $100, huge win for that set. I know my shiny baby Pikachu has not been doing well over the last 6 months, down 21%, but it is seemed to be leveling off at $30, and I think it's just a really cool card to have in the collection. So 3 interesting cards from these two sets that have certainly got my attention. Next ones, Temporal Forces and Twilight Masquerade. And can I just say, it is wonderful to see all of the cards in Twilight Masquerade's top 20 down month over month. Like, Twilight Masquerade was just kind of doing its own thing. It was an animal in and of itself. So seeing it be somewhat normal, it makes me feel good. And let's be honest, some of these cards needed to come down in price. So I'm totally happy and feel really good about Twilight Masquerade coming down. But if you look at the top of Temporal Forces, those two cards, the top two cards, they're down 12% each respectively over the last month. And I think it's going to be interesting to see what those cards do in the long run. Obviously, they're driven by playability. I think that that's a big part of it. The artwork is awesome. I really love the artwork. Like, I'm a big fan of Temporal Forces, if I'm being completely transparent. But I just don't know if those two cards are going to, once they rotate out, still have all the market love that they have today. People want to bling out their decks. Totally appreciate it. Think it's the right thing to do. Think it's super cool. But when I'm thinking, you know, I make my purchases thinking about the next 3, 5, 10 years. So are those the studs that are going to be at the very top, or do I think that they're going to switch out? So the cards that I wanted to talk about are not at the very top of these lists. Now, I love this Eevee card. I don't $44 love it, but I do love it. So I'm very excited to see over the last month that it has come down about 18%. I don't know at what price point it'll get to, or finally all my spidey senses tingle and I'm like, this is the time to go in, but I'm gonna keep an eye on it. I do think in the long run, Twilight Masquerade is gonna be a great set, and I think the Eevee card is gonna be a big reason why. The Ghastly, another mashup card. I love this card. I absolutely do. You got, obviously, you got Ghastly, you got Haunter, you got Gengar on here. You got everything that I love. And this is a card where over the last 6 months, it is relatively flat. It's only up about 2% from where it was 6 months ago. You see the spike, then you see it work its way back down. I feel like it's going to settle in the $20 range. And again, a great card at a fair price. I think this checks all of those boxes, so I've got a close eye on that one. And then the Chansey card. When you talk about a card that has high reward, low risk, this has got to be it. It's at $8.72, for God's sakes. A super cute card. You got Snorlax chilling in the background. You got Psyduck. You got everything going on. Like, just a really awesome card. And again, if Twilight Masquerade ends up being one of the better sets from the Scarlet and Violet era, buying this card at sub $10, you can do far worse. So I thought this was a really cool card to include on the list as well. Final set right here is Shrouded Fable. I'm not doing anything special for Shrouded Fable. We are only in month 1, right? So we know it's a set that's mainly driven by playability, not a lot of collectible or investable cards that at least I would consider in this set. So not a big surprise to see a lot of red there at the top. It's going to be really interesting to me to see how it performs. Again, it's a specialty set, so I got my Pokemon Center exclusive Elite Trainer boxes. Even if the set stinks, I feel confident in having some of those. They might not... Listen, not everything is going to give you the same return. So this might be one of the lowest returns from my Pokemon Center exclusive set, especially if nobody buys them and they stay in stock, but I got them. Now, what I am excited about are these right here. Stellar Crown is here. I've been very excited about this set. Now the Terrapagos, the Squirtle, the Bulbasaur, they're doing what we would expect. They've come out, people are opening them, they're hitting the market, prices are coming down. The Squirtle and Bulbasaur, they already seem to be leveling off a little bit, and I pray this is just because the data is so new. I hope they continue to level off or drop down a little bit before they level off, but the Squirtle seems to be leveling off at $40. The Bulbasaur seems to be leveling off at $30. Again, I want to see cards, I don't know, I think it's more healthy if they do what they normally do. They come out, the demand is met by the supply, and they start to drop a little bit. But who am I to judge? You guys are the ones who make this happen. All of us collectively are the market. We're the ones who set the prices, and I love all three of these pieces of artwork. So if you made it to the end of this video and you want to see more, we do this every month. So hit that subscribe button. If you have questions or comments, drop them down below. And as always, if you like what you see, give us a big old thumbs up. I appreciate you so much. You guys have a great one. I'll talk to you soon. See you, everybody. Bye.